In 1887, under the wide skies of Argentina, a girl named Violet Constance Jessup was born. She was the first of 9 children of William and Catherine Jessup, Irish immigrants, who had crossed the ocean in search of opportunity. Violet spent her early childhood surrounded by the wind-swept grasslands of the Pampas, living in a household filled with noise, warmth, and constant activity. But childhood has its shadows. When her father died, the fragile security of the family vanished. Her mother, facing the responsibility of raising 9 children alone, made the difficult choice to return to Britain, where she hoped life might be more stable. Not long after their return, her mother fell seriously ill. Violet, still a young girl, left school and stepped into the working world as a ship stewardess, the same profession her mother had held before sickness overtook her. The work was not easy. It required patience, resilience, and a calm manner toward demanding passengers who expected constant attention. Yet Violet carried herself with a poise beyond her years. In 1910, she was hired by the White Star Line, the company that would unknowingly place her at the center of 3 of the most dramatic maritime disasters of her time. Her first brush with fate came aboard the RMS Olympic in September 1911. The Olympic was the pride of the White Star Line, sister ship to the yet unlaunched Titanic. Violet was on duty when the naval cruiser HMS Hawk collided with the Olympic in the narrow waters of the Solent. The impact shook the ship with violent force. Furniture toppled, passengers were thrown off balance, and the sea churned with debris. Violet kept a steady head, guiding frightened travelers and offering comfort where she could. The Olympic survived, badly damaged but still afloat, and limped back to port. Violet had no reason to believe she would ever experience such danger again. She returned to her duties as though the incident had been a rare and unrepeatable misfortune. Only 7 months later, however, she boarded the RMS Titanic for its maiden voyage. It was the grandest ship the world had ever seen, luxurious in every detail, and Violet was one of only 18 stewardesses selected to serve aboard her. The first 4 days of the journey were peaceful. Passengers laughed, dined, and marveled at the ship's beauty. Violet attended to them with her usual grace, unaware that she was moving through the final quiet hours of the ship's life. Late at night on April 14, 1912, a strange shudder rippled through the Titanic. It was subtle but unmistakable. Soon after, officers began moving briskly across the decks. Orders echoed in the cold air. The ship had struck an iceberg. Violet helped guide women and children to the lifeboats, speaking gently to mothers whose hands shook as they stepped forward. When an officer handed Violet a bundled infant and instructed her to board lifeboat number 16, she obeyed, still unsure of how dire the situation truly was. From the lifeboat, she watched the great ship tilt, groan, and break apart under a starlit sky, disappearing into the freezing Atlantic with more than 1,500 souls. Violet held the child close while the cries of the dying carried across the dark water. After 8 hours adrift, she and the other survivors were taken aboard the Carpathia. Though exhausted and shaken, Violet returned to her work after the disaster. She refused to let fear of the sea control her life. When the First World War erupted, Violet volunteered as a nurse with the British Red Cross. In 1916, she was assigned to the HMHS Britannic, a hospital ship and the largest vessel of the Olympic class. On the morning of November 21st, the Britannic sailed through the Aegean Sea near the coast of Greece when a sudden explosion tore through its hull. The ship had struck a naval mine. Within minutes, the enormous vessel began to sink. Violet once again found herself surrounded by chaos. She helped load wounded soldiers into lifeboats, but the sea had become treacherous. The ship's propellers, still spinning beneath the surface, created a deadly suction. Several lifeboats were dragged straight into the blades and destroyed, Violet's boat drifted dangerously close. Realizing the danger, she leapt into the water. The impact was brutal, and while struggling upward, she struck her head against the underside of the sinking ship. Dazed but conscious, she kicked toward the surface until another lifeboat pulled her aboard. The Britannic disappeared beneath the waves less than an hour after the explosion. Violet survived for the third time. After the war, she continued working at sea. She returned to the White Star Line, later moved to the Red Star Line, and eventually to the Royal Mail Line. She married briefly in her 30s, though the marriage did not last. She had no children, but touched many lives through her calm presence and unwavering dedication to her work. In 1971, Violet Jessop died at the age of 83, one of the last surviving adults from the sinking of the Titanic. Her survival was extraordinary, almost unbelievable. Yet she was not the only one. Arthur John Priest, another crew member who had served aboard all 3 Olympic-class ships, also lived through every disaster. Some believed that certain people carried a kind of strange luck, a shield against fate. Others whispered that the sea itself had watched over them. Whatever the truth, Violet's life became a testament to endurance, courage, and the mysterious resilience of the human spirit. She had endured the worst that the sea could offer, and she had risen from each disaster with dignity intact. Her story remains a reminder that even in the darkest hours, some hearts refuse to sink.